Hello there. Well, come on in. My name's Lucia Capacchione, and I'm going to be sharing some tools with you for life during the time of coronavirus because we're all dealing with stress. So come on with me. I'm going to take you up to my studio. This is my home, and we've got a lot of my artwork here and things that I've created or that my friends have. And I'm going to take you upstairs to the space where I create, where I do my journaling, and where I write my books. I write my books here at the computer. And then for my own personal space, and this is something I really recommend at this time, is to have some personal space, even if it's a corner of a bedroom or a little nook in the kitchen or wherever it is, especially for the kind of work we're going to be doing. So come on in. This is my studio. And as you can see, I'm perched up here in the pine trees in Cambria, California. So the view out of the windows is quite lovely. And this is a house that I manifested by making collages and journaling through my blocks and my obstacles to manifest my dream house. So I'm very happy to welcome you here. Come on in. This is my workspace. It's a big oak table. And this is where I keep all my art supplies. And of course, art is a big part of creative journaling, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I have a book on the subject. So if you want to review anything that we're talking about today, you are more than welcome to get that book and do the journal prompts in it and read about the theory. I'm going to kind of give you the highlights today. So what is creative journaling? It's a method of journaling that involves art and writing. And so I'm going to show you some pages. This is some work I've been doing recently about feeling overwhelmed. And this looks like a little kid's art, doesn't it? Well, it is. It's the kid inside. When we get overwhelmed or upset, or even when we're feeling angry or whatever we're feeling, those are our inner child's feelings. Same feelings we had as a kid. They don't go away when we grow up. And this is a great place to put them so that we don't carry them in our body. In this time of coronavirus stress, we're going to be carrying a lot in our body, even if we don't have the virus. We're going to be carrying stress, overwhelm, fear, what's going to happen in the future, anger that we can't do the things we were doing before we got into, in this case where I am, I'm sheltering in place now. So I am very aware that when you're cooped up in a space and you have to stay there, it can get very stressful, especially if you're with a family. Got a lot of kids around, different ages, they all have different needs. It could get very stressful, and I'm sure a lot of people are feeling that right now. I have been scribbling out all of my stress from having to stay home, although I have a beautiful home and I love it here, but it's very different not being able to go out to the cafes and the shops and the restaurants and meet my friends for lunch and all that sort of thing. My life has changed, and I'll bet yours has too. So a lot of these scribbles just look very much, as I said before, like the scribbles of a little kid. So what I want to say to you is you don't need any talent or any skill in art to do this method. So you wonder, well, is it all scribbling and drawing? Well, no, it's also writing. And there's a special kind of writing I do, and it has to do with using your non-dominant hand. And that's the hand you don't normally write with. So I have some journaling here that I did recently about coronavirus with my non-dominant hand. I was having a lot of feelings about what was going on, and there was a lot of confusion in the media, which is probably going to continue, with different people's opinions and policies and theories and some science thrown in. And I was, feeling all that confusion. So I just wrote out my feelings about it. And I want to tell you, when I did that, I felt so much calmer. I got some inner guidance from my inner wisdom that I have. You have your own inner wisdom. We can all access that through this method. And there has never been a time in my lifetime when we have needed this more. I've lived through the Second World War. I was born at the end of the Great Depression. I've seen the towers fall in New York. I've seen all kinds of wars in between the wars. And I really have seen a lot in my lifetime. So when I say I've never seen anything quite like this, I'm really serious. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. So what I'm seeing now is that everybody needs to, while they're inside, and if they're not inside, I think they need to get inside, and while they're inside is to make the best of this time. There is a saying, the way out is in. Okay? The way out of our stress and troubles is to go inside and get our feelings out so we don't carry them around in our body and make ourselves sick, and go inside so we can find our own truth. What's really true for us? What do we need? And there is a voice inside of us that will tell us that, but we have to ask, and it will answer. And in my method, the answers come with this non-dominant hand. That's the hand you don't normally write with. So why are we doing all this? We're doing all this to be able to deal with overwhelming circumstances and situations that are going on right now. That's why we're doing it. And I really urge you to get yourself some paper. You know, it could be scratch paper. This is scratch paper. I use a journal. It's a bound book. And I use 8.5 by 11 journals because I like the size. You can work with a smaller one if you like. I do not work with journals with lines because I'm drawing and scribbling, and I really don't want the lines to influence me. And the kind of writing I do, even though I write with both hands, see, sometimes I ask the questions with my dominant hand, and then I answer it with my non-dominant. So I'm using both hands, and I'm using pens, I'm using markers, and I don't want lines because I don't want the lines determining my writing. I want the writing to be free-flowing, so I don't need it. I don't need the lines. And of course, we're not grading this. We're not going to look at spelling or grammar. We don't care. Look at this handwriting. I mean, it looks like a little kid learning to write, doesn't it? And I'm a professional calligrapher, so I have training in calligraphy. But when I do this work with my non-dominant hand, the writing becomes very childlike, or sometimes it becomes even better because I'm listening to my inner guide who just feels like an ancient voice of wisdom. And that handwriting actually changes. It looks different. So here we are. We're drawing, we're scribbling, we're writing, and we're getting it all out. Now, why is it important to get it all out? Because if we don't get our emotions out, the ones that are really difficult, they stay in our body. They have no place to go. The body's a closet. Okay? So you know these terms. I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I had butterflies in my stomach. You know, stuff like that. We use those terms all the time. And we know what they mean. And we know how they feel in the body. We all experience that. And what's going to happen now, even if you don't have the virus, is it's going to be very easy for people to store their stress and get sick. So any body part that you have that tends to be vulnerable and kind of shows some distress when you're under stress, it's going to kick up now. So this is a time and a place and a tool for getting rid of it. Do this in a private place. You know, make a little space in your house somewhere if you're living with others. If you're not, then it's not an issue. Make it private. Nobody else should see this. Why? Because it's nobody's business. This is your own personal relationship with yourself. And if you start worrying about what other people are going to think of what you're drawing and writing, then you're not going to be honest with yourself. And if you're not going to be honest with yourself, you might as well forget it. Don't keep a journal. You know, you can do artwork and crafts and all that if you want. Good. That makes me feel good too. But if you really want to be honest with yourself and be able to be yourself with you, no editing, no inner criticism, just you be you in this journal, then it needs to be private. And if you're living with other people, you need to either make that an agreement with them or put your journal in a private place. I know people who lock it up in a little, one of those cases that they put important papers in. They lock it up there. or they put it somewhere where nobody else is going to find it. So whatever you do, keep it personal, keep it private. Now, we use very simple materials in this method. You can see these markers, you know, crayons. It's really simple. You don't have to spend a lot of money on this. You know, I have a bunch of old crayons I've had for years that I put in this little bag. I carry them around when I travel. I take these with me. I've got size pens for writing. These are a little bit thinner. And I've got some really fat ones for drawing. So the scribbling sometimes needs to be really strong. It needs to be, you know, very bold. And of course you want a bold pen for that. And there's all kinds of brands. You know, Crayola's been around forever. I love their materials. And there's a lot of other brands, whatever you like. It doesn't matter. And it's good to have a ballpoint pen around, you know. If you've got some big markers around the house that you use for, you know, like labeling boxes and stuff like that, great, use them. Sometimes I do collage, so I like to have a little glue around. I have a couple of different kinds of glue. This is kind of a clear craft glue, and Elmer's. And then I also use this Crayola, it's kind of a milk glue. And it has a nice bottle with a little applicator top, so you can just, you know, and I'll do some collage with you in one of these videos so that you'll see how that works. Tearing up magazines and doing that sort of thing. I don't have any of that in this particular volume, but I'll have one at our next session. And then, of course, there's always glue sticks. These are really simple to use. Most people have all this stuff around the house. And I do want to say that when you get really angry about something and frustrated, which a lot of people are dealing with right now, you can always get old magazines and old newspapers and just scribble on them. And for that, it's really good to have a really fat crayon, you know, because you can press really hard on a crayon. Even if it breaks, so what? You know, peel the paper off, put it on its side, get as bold as you need to. So if you need to get big and bold, get some newspapers. So what's the journal method about more specifically? Let's talk about that. The basic exercise is very simple. You ask yourself, how do I feel right now? And then you just scribble it out. So I'm going to do that right now for you. Okay. So how do I feel right now? I feel kind of red. All right. I've been looking over a lot of things I want to do online, and I was feeling overwhelmed and frustrated before. And in fact, I did a bunch of scribbles about that. And it says, I feel overwhelmed. Okay. What was I overwhelmed about? Well, I had set a lot of goals for myself to design a new website, to reach out to people so that they could apply this method to coronavirus times. Okay? That's a whole new twist for me. I've been training professionals and working with private clients. So here I am now at home, like the rest of us, and I'm dealing with staying at home, but I'm also dealing with a whole new set of projects. And when I look at the need, I just was feeling overwhelmed. So this is what those scribbles are all about, you know, just really, and I wrote the word overwhelmed with 2 pens, which is kind of symbolic of, you know, I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff right now, so I need 2 pens in my hand.